Hello everyone and welcome back to Driver Career for the Singapore Grand Prix in Season 2022. So, what is the outlook heading into this episode? Well, as we get the Pirelli Hot Lap Challenge underway, for some reason I chose the drift again, but anyway. The last round in Italy went pretty well. We certainly had our own against the McLarens there, and we got both cars into the points, which is absolutely huge. It was absolutely a result that we needed, and hopefully we can build on that momentum from here on out. But yeah, I think the championship fight with McLaren is going to go all the way down to the wire for who can get higher up the order at the end of the season. But with Alpine improving as well, Fernando Alonso has had the odd good performance this season, so if they can get up there as a team, they could also be a threat. They're a bit far back at the moment, but one standout performance can absolutely change things if the rest of us in that midfield fight are down the order, and it seems to only be getting tighter between all the midfield teams. So yeah, who knows what is going to happen next. But anyway, we get enough points to get the gold in the drift challenge, and now we move on to the end of practice, where we got through all of the practice programs. Something I did do during practice, which I don't normally do, is a little bit of setup work. I found myself really struggling around here in Singapore for just general speed. I think practice 1 I was pretty on pace with Yuki, but we were both quite a ways down the order. But especially on the harder tyre compounds, I really just had no confidence. It was hard to pull power down, and turning into the corners, the car just wasn't really responding very well, so I chose the highest downforce option heading into this weekend, knowing that we've applied some drag reduction recently. Hopefully that's not going to compromise us too much on the straights. And yeah, anyway, we'll see how it goes. There's the R&D chart though heading into this episode. Ferrari continuing to lag behind Mercedes and Red Bull. Not that it made too much difference last time at their home race. The Ferraris did very well, especially in the hands of Carlos Sainz, so who knows. But anyway, in terms of R&D, we're going to go for a drag reduction upgrade. It'll be on the car whether we rush it or not in time for the US Grand Prix. We might as well go for the lower risk option. Don't rush it and hope it goes onto the car successfully. Anyway, so then we head into qualifying for the Singapore Grand Prix, and this could be a very important session because there is a little bit of rain forecast for the start of the main event, and I do not want to be in traffic in the early stages of the race as that rain is coming down. So this is a very important qualifying session to get right for us if we want to ensure that we can navigate the early stages of the race safely. So yeah, hopefully the compromise we chose to run higher downforce can pay off. I think this is a circuit where where our car can can benefit from higher downforce. I think generally that's an area we are lacking. We weren't able to do any upgrades in the aero department for quite a while, so we did fall behind in that area. So yeah, just running the higher downforce, and hopefully the engine being good enough to just push us through on the straights will be the way to go. But anyway, as we continue to push on through the session, we do get through into Q2, although we are down in 12th, so getting into Q3 could be a bit of a struggle. Unfortunately, Tsunoda gets knocked out, and yeah, he just didn't have the pace today, unfortunately. But the two Williams at the back of the field getting knocked out, as well as Zhou Guanyu and Lance Stroll. Sebastian Vettel through into Q2, and actually ahead of his fellow German Mick Schumacher. So good qualifying session there by Sebastian Vettel, and that Aston Martin is starting to look a little better in the recent past. It's still not a great car, but maybe if a little bit of luck goes their way at one point between now and the end of the season, they're within the realms of maybe getting points, but it's still a tall order for the green cars. We got second in Q2. Where did that lap time come from? My goodness. That really came out of nowhere. What on earth? My goodness. 3/10 behind Lewis Hamilton, who dominated the session. So maybe everyone else just didn't get their best laps together, because, I mean, that gap to Hamilton, maybe a little bit less than what you would expect, but still, you would expect the other Red Bulls and Ferraris to be, there in that sort of range. But either way, Sebastian Vettel actually qualifies in P13, so goes one better than what he did in Q2. Magnus and Schumacher knocked out behind. Ocon and Bottas also not making the cut in 12th and 11th. Bottas always impressing in the Sauber. But we move on into Q3 then, and now we need to try and replicate that lap if we want to get a good starting position for the Grand Prix itself. So let's see what we can do in Q3. We got through the first sector of our first flying lap pretty well, so now it's heading towards the more technical part of the circuit. This left-hander is one I always struggle with to find the right turning point. You can see I missed it again there, missing the apex by quite a margin, but that's okay, we got through there, and now we get into this probably the most tricky section to get right, as we try and just thread the needle as the track continues to switch left and right. We get a nice wide line into the hairpin there, and that really helps getting the traction down on the exit. If you can carry good apex speed there without running wide, and you can still get the power down early. So we did a good job through that middle sector, and now we just have a few corners left to navigate as we head through the old final sector, around the final couple of corners and towards the finish line. We go fastest of all. Wowee, I did not expect that. Well, there's a long time left in the session. Maybe the other drivers did their first flies on used tyres, but our car has come alive in this qualifying session more than I could have ever believed. Russell tops the session though. He goes fastest.
With qualifying finished, it's time to remind ourselves once again of our top three: Russell, the scientist, and Lewis Hamilton. With qualifying complete, all that remains now is the main event. We'll be live and uninterrupted for the Grand Prix tomorrow, so make sure you join us then.
Wow, and it's not by a small margin. Hamilton 4/10 away from his teammate. Russell only just beat us actually, so yeah, that was a crazy good qualifying lap. And to be honest, I don't know if I could replicate it. It's why I didn't go out for a second flyer. I figured maybe with some wet weather in the race, having a spare set of softs, fresh soft tyres could come in handy, more so than doing another lap. So that gamble has absolutely paid off. And yeah, we are in a very good position. Lando Norris, though, is quite high on the grid as well, so outscoring McLaren still won't be an easy task. Let's get into the race.
Here we go then, it's Formula One in Marina Bay once again. And welcome to you all at home who join us today for this fascinating race around the baking hot but beautiful streets of Singapore. We have a high risk of a safety car here today, I think, as the abundance of tight corners mixed with these wet conditions could put a few cars off and into the barriers. 23 turns then, 13 to the left and 10 to the right, make up the 3.1 mile lap of Marina Bay. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and the scientist completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Hamilton, Norris, Carlos Sainz and Leclerc, Perez, Ricciardo, Fernando Alonso and Valtteri Bottas, Ocon, Vettel, Mick Schumacher and Verstappen, Stroll, Joe, Yuki Tsunoda and Alex Albon. Latifi and Kevin Magnussen fills the last spot on the grid. And with lights out just moments away, it's time to go down to the track. Joining me on this very wet day is a woman who very much came prepared. Nice wellies there, Nats. Natalie Pinkham, how would you say the wet weather experience differs between Formula One and perhaps some other forms of racing?
I wouldn't say there's much difference, in all honesty. You know, besides the terrifying closing speeds you find in something like sports cars, with different categories all sharing the same track, driving in the rain is, well, driving in the rain. Of course, the biggest difference is the fact that F1 is open cockpit. On the one hand, they'll be cold and wet without a roof, but on the other, it's much simpler to pull a tear off from a visor than it is to clear a dirty windscreen. So I don't think it's too bad.
Alrighty then, Verstappen, Latifi and Magnussen taking grid penalties for this one, and it is a wet start to this race. The rain won't hang around forever, it'll actually dry up reasonably quickly I think, but with darkness setting in, who knows how long the track will remain wet after the rain stops anyway. But either way, it's Inters for the start, and boy am I glad we have track position on our side for the start of this race. Even on the end of the formation lap, you can see the struggles we might be having with Russell kicking up the spray in front of us. If we can get a good launch, we can be in the clear of all that spray and make it everyone else's problem. My pace in the wet has never been as good either, so if we can get the jump, that could really help.
Okay, incredible parking there, nice one. That's going to give you the edge if you can get a good launch as the race starts.
And of course, a high downforce setup.
The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed. Be ready with the clutch.
Is going to be very beneficial in these conditions as well. So it's time to put all of that into practice as everyone takes their place on the grid. We wait an age for last place to turn up, and the tension just builds and builds, and finally the 5 red lights come on. It's lights out and away we go after a very short hold on the grid, and the traction is decent off the line, better than Russell. We're down the inside into turn 1, and we're going to take the lead at the apex, moving ourselves up into first place as we try and squirm our way through back onto the power on the exit, and we run very wide, missing the apex of turn 3 entirely. But we're okay, we still maintain track position, and there is no traction at the moment. It is very difficult to keep this thing pointing in the right direction, but as the tyres come up to temperature, I think we'll get into a rhythm. But that was a very tricky first sector, and even the kink on the straight, quite difficult to keep the car pointing in the right direction there. But we're okay, and we have got ourselves into prime position. We don't need to push now, we just need to keep it on the track, and we should be okay to maintain position. It's very difficult to overtake in the wet, but as long as we can get good exits out of each corner, that's really the main focus. And if we can do that, we can keep good track position, we can keep a clear vision, and that will be the key to maintaining a good position in this race. And once things dry up, I think that's truly when the race begins. But for now, we've made the perfect start.
Inters seem to be the fastest tyre for now.
And already just checking up on the weather. You never know, it can change very quickly. But for now, looks like we're going to be staying on the Inters for the foreseeable future.
Condition still looking good.
And no damage off the start. I was worried that when we ran a bit wide through turn 3, I was wondering if there was a bit of contact with Russell in that instance, but I think we were okay and got away with all that. As we continue on though, we do have to defend our track position because we do not have the pace to maintain first place forever, so I feel it might be
Yuki is coming in for his stop now.
inevitable that we get overtaken at some point as Yuki Tsunoda comes in for a pit stop, and that obviously is not a scheduled stop at the end of the first lap, so I think Yuki's got himself caught up in an incident, and indeed it is a front wing change for our teammates. So yeah, it wasn't a great qualifying, and when you start back in the pack in a wet race, it's always going to be difficult. Here's the onboard then off the start for Yuki Tsunoda, and you can see this is why qualifying is so important. There is no visibility for Yuki Tsunoda heading into turn 1, and he did a good job there so far to stay out of trouble, so it'll be interesting to see where it all went wrong for Yuki Tsunoda as he runs side by side with one of the Haas's on the exit, tucks in behind, then makes some contact in the braking zone of the right-hander there onto the back straight, or the other straight. It's not really the back straight, is it? But anyway, Max Verstappen also got himself caught up in a bit of an incident too. So again, Max Verstappen starting down the order with a grid penalty, and was also involved in a bit of contact. So I wouldn't be surprised if Verstappen also had some front wing damage, but he did not come in for a pit stop at the end of the first lap.
The rain's getting lighter now, but it's going to take a while for the track to dry out. Inters look like the best tyre for now.
And the rain is starting to ease off as Verstappen is in, so he's given it up as well. He needs a new front wing on the Red Bull car, so for his championship fight, he's got a massive lead in the points, but this will now be a very difficult race to recover any amount of points from for Verstappen, because he is tumbling down to the back of the field. And in fact, there's Yuki Tsunoda making the move around the outside, and I think he's got through there, so well done Yuki. He's got the undercut of the front wing battle, change battle, and now we've got more going on because Hamilton is making the move on George Russell. So the Mercedes switching around there, and now we'll have to deal with Lewis Hamilton and those who have been scrapping away pretty hard actually.
Showing a clear patch on its way. There's about 10 more minutes of this rain.
And it's ever so slightly let me off the hook every time that happens. So it's has made things a little bit easier every time they run side by side, but it never takes long for them to catch up again. But thankfully there's not that many overtaking opportunities, not that many good ones anyway, around this circuit. It's not necessarily a difficult circuit to overtake once DRS is enabled, but in these conditions it can be quite tricky, and we've been able to defend so far. And we're now 10 laps deep in the race, and we're still maintaining the race lead. So it's hasn't been pretty, but we've managed to get the job done so far. And yeah, we seem to be managing things okay. But there is quite the queue of cars behind us.
Currently, the fastest lap is 2 minutes. Okay, that last lap was a 1:00.1.
And Verstappen has basically set a 2 minutes flat, so in clean air Verstappen's a couple of seconds a lap faster than we are, which shows how much we're struggling for pace. But like I said, it doesn't really matter. We've got the track position, so there's no real concern about that, because no one's really gaining anything. The stops Verstappen and Tsunoda have made are not scheduled.
Okay, the rain should be ending shortly, so watch those lap times. We may have to pit for dries at very short notice. Inters look like the best tyre for now.
And with dry tyres coming very soon, yeah, they're going to be fairly inconsequential in our race. So yeah, the target now basically is to just maintain this lead until we need to switch to dries, and then hold on to as many positions as possible for the rest of the race. So as we continue to push on, lap number 12 now, and we're still on the defense from the queue behind, but we're still managing it okay so far. But they are not giving up, and I know that if one of these cars behind, especially one of the Mercedes, if they get past, I will not see them again for the rest of the race. So the longer we hold up the queue, essentially the better it is for us, as there's a dive down the inside by George Russell there, but we just maintain our position around the outside and hold on. But yeah, Russell really wanted to get the nose in there, and he threw it in there. I was always going to open the door to try and keep the momentum through the corner better and focus on the exit. Russell, for half a moment, thought there was an opportunity, and perhaps in a dry that could have even worked, but yeah, pinched in on the apex in these conditions. He had to really jam the brakes on mid-corner to make sure he didn't plow into the side of us, and yeah, that was no chance of an overtake.
Check your MFD for a new strategy option.
But finally we're given the option to switch to dry tyres, so I think it is now time. The track still looked relatively wet there, but anyway, hopefully it'll be dry enough by the end of the lap to come in, as we're a little wayward into that sequence of corners this time, and Russell's right on us, so that's why we've been trying to focus on the exit there. But as we get to the end of the lap, we do come in for our first pit stop, and we're going to be going on to a set of the medium compound tyres as Russell is in right behind us.
We've been informed the safety car is out. There appears to have been an issue with multiple stock vehicles on the track.
Safety car is out, my goodness. And I could not find a reason for the safety car. Zhou Guanyu decides not to pit, so that'll be interesting to see how that plays out with the safety car out.
That was a fantastic stop, faster than we were expecting.
We get in and out of our pit box and get going once
Yuki is in the pits. Yuki in the pit lane
again.
now.
Tsunoda in for his stop, so at least for Tsunoda and Verstappen, I think Verstappen now ahead of Tsunoda. I think they'll catch up to the train now, so they'll be able to get their races back on track, but with a major track position disadvantage. But yeah, Zhou and Latifi haven't stopped, and they've caught the safety car, so this is going to destroy their race. My goodness. They're going to have to do a lap behind the safety car. The field is going to catch up, and then they'll have to make a pit stop. So a gamble to maybe try and jump ahead of the safety car has not worked. The safety cars come out in front of them, pick them up as the race leaders, and yeah, it was probably just you know, an attempt at avoiding a chaotic pit lane. They were both down the order anyway, but that is going to send them to the back of the field for Zhou and Latifi, so that's a shame.
You're approaching the safety car, you're leading, so don't pass it. Stay behind the safety car.
If it worked out well for them, it could have, you know, it could have really benefited those teams. They're both in need of points, but yeah, it hasn't worked out on this occasion. But probably worth a try, given that neither of them are really, well, neither of them got out of Q1. So yeah, they've both been struggling this weekend.
In this lap. Safety car in this lap. You'll be controlling the pace on the restart. Keep it steady until the safety cars reach the pit lane.
Either way, we are ready to go racing once more. And look at the totem in the top left corner. George Russell maintains second, Sainz now third, Sebastian Vettel is up to fourth, and Perez rounding out the top five. Vettel on the softs, on a different strategy, but it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. The team that have scored 1 point this season with Stroll back in Azerbaijan. This could be a huge day for Aston Martin, but we go racing once more here in Singapore into turn one. We run wide, and that's left the door open for George Russell to make the move down the inside, and he's there. He's got the overlap, but we're going to maintain the position around the outside with a little bit better mid-corner speed there. But George Russell is not ready to give this one up. He tucks in behind as we head along the straight, and with the high downforce, we are actually still pretty quick in a straight line there, to be honest. And George Russell not able to keep up, so perhaps everyone running a decent amount of downforce as we're wide again at the end of the straight. But that little moment has actually allowed Carlos Sainz to get involved in the fight, as well as there's a bit of contact there, and that's on board with Nicholas Latifi into the back of Zhou. So the two that took a different approach to strategy a moment ago have come together, and Latifi in for a new front wing, unfortunately for the Canadian, and his race goes from bad to worse. Here's a replay of how all of that action started, and that were the last two cars in the snake on the safety car restart, and Latifi was straight away down the inside. So not sure what happened with Zhou there, if he was just a little bit caught out by something in front, or if he just missed the apex. But either way, Latifi was pretty hungry to get that move done. He wasn't able to do it there, but all along the back straight, Latifi was right under the rear wing of the Sauber in front, and not able to make the move in probably the best overtaking opportunity of the lap. And then he tried to go for the move into the right-hander, but just couldn't get it done, just ran into the back of Zhou, and at that point the damage was done, and Latifi drops in behind. So shame for Latifi, and yeah, he had to cycle through the pits once more for a new front wing, and yeah, that's, I think, the end of any meaningful running for Latifi in this race, if that wasn't already done from the strategical mistake earlier. But anyway, we continue.
Okay, the stewards have now enabled DRS. DRS is now online.
To lead the way, Sainz in second with the fastest lap of the race as we run wide at turn one once again. And here's a little bit of combat behind Sainz and Russell. So whenever they go side by side like this, like the two Mercs were earlier, it is helping us just get a little bit of breathing space every once in a while. But I think it's inevitable that Sainz is going to get this move done. That Ferrari, it's not the top of the R&D chart, but it has a brilliant race pace, and Sainz gets through, and there's nothing we can do about it. I could try and fight on, but at this point,
Okay, we've lost a position. That's us down a place.
I'm taking a little bit of inspiration from the real Carlos Sainz here, and I'm hoping that we can sit in the DRS with our high downforce setup. We can keep up in the twisty parts of the circuit, and then on the straights we can use the DRS to stay within range of Carlos Sainz, and hopefully that's enough to keep us in second position and away from the Mercedes of George Russell. And even that is a weird parallel to real life. It's just that we're in the wrong car in between. But anyway, we continue then to press on, and Sainz is... we start kind of teetering on the edge of DRS. We're sort of clinging on, but it's clear that Sainz has some pace to burn, and we are struggling to stay in touch.
No tyre concerns at the moment, just focus on the driving.
Tyres are fine, there's no damage to the car, so, you know, we are maxed out at the moment. I'm pushing really hard, running a bit deep there, and, you know, there's certain points of the track, like that left-hander especially, where I'm costing myself more time.
Ricciardo. Okay, they're out of this race.
Oh, Ricciardo out of the race, and that is one soldier down for McLaren. And I'm not sure where he was running actually after the pit stop cycle, because he would have had to double stack behind Lando, but he was starting inside the top 10, so shame for Ricciardo.
Car behind is dropping back by about 3/10 a lap. Well done.
But a big benefit to us, because now with Ricciardo out and Tsunoda essentially out after the lap 1 incident, it's pretty much a straight fight between myself and Lando for championship points for the respective teams in the team's championship. So that is it makes things a little bit simpler in that equation, but you can see we're still struggling to keep up with Sainz. Somehow each time we get around to the DRS zone, we just barely find ourselves on the right side of a second, but I don't think this can last forever. I'm pushing so hard.
We're coming in this lap.
And now we're getting called into pit lane, which is very odd, because this is nowhere near the halfway point of you know, when the track dried up and the end of the race. We realistically need to go, I think, like another 8 laps or so, I think it was. But either way, Sainz is pulling in, so we're going to push on. This happened back in Hungary, where we pushed on for a much longer first stint. And in the second stint, or at least on dries, we had great pace.
You're in first position, front of the pack. Okay, Sainz is behind you. They've just entered the pits. They're on fresh mediums. Your pit window's now open. Pit window is open. Okay, 32 laps to go.
And it looks like we are going to have a pretty sizable lead at this point, because everyone has come into the pits, to the point that Sainz has come out in second place. So, yeah, wow. We are absolutely on our own on this strategy, so we are either going to be looking like a genius at the end of the race, or, well, looking rather silly, because we move on, and we've continued to push on lap after lap after lap, and we are struggling for pace. That is clear. Sainz is scything into the margin that we have, but Sebastian Vettel still running up in 4th position, so he's still in there, still in contention, and on yet another set of soft compound tyres. So the strategy is very interesting for Vettel. I don't know if it's the right call, but here he is on track, holding off Sergio Perez at the moment, and Vettel's diving in again, so he can't make it to the end on those softs, as would be expected. But that's a bit of a shame, because I think everyone else who's boxed onto a second set of mediums is going to the end. So bit of a blunder there, I think, by Aston Martin, not using the best choice of tyres for the race, but either way, that's still potentially a decent result for Vettel, because
Perfect job from you and the crew there, mate. We're delighted with that.
He's not the only one on that soft tyre strategy, and he is absolutely by 100 miles leading the double soft strategy.
Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound.
Either way, we come out of pits, and I was thinking we were going to come out in a fairly decent track position, but we've just been done by Max Verstappen. My goodness, we're down in 9th. We have come out a lot further behind than I would have expected. We did push on for a lot of laps, but that is not what the strategy had in mind. And yeah,
Caution.
I was a little frustrated, I have to say, to have lost that much track position, and the pace isn't there at the moment to gain anything. Magnussen retires from the race with a mechanical failure, unfortunate for the Haas driver, who took a grid penalty at the start of this one, so that didn't do him much good. But yeah, the engineer was suggesting a slightly brighter picture when you know, we were looking at the strategy and where we might come out of pit lane. But either way, we need to do the talking on track now, and we've got a good run on Max Verstappen, but it's in an awkward part of the track, and there's no way we can overtake into that corner. There's just not enough space, so we just have to wait. We just have to be patient, and hopefully we'll find an opportunity soon enough. But as these tyres have come up to temperature, we are finding a bit of pace once more, so hopefully we'll be able to get something done. But Verstappen has DRS as we lunge down the inside, a monumental dive, and that was critical. It is so difficult to overtake a car with DRS, but we got the job done there. From a mile back, we were so deep on the brakes. Verstappen saw us coming. Great effort to see us coming, because there was no way we were stopping in time if he chose to turn in. We get down the inside of the Ferrari of Charles Leclerc a little bit easier, and now,
Okay, that's P7. You've moved into P7.
now these fresher mediums are starting to pay off. They took a little while. I really struggled for a moment out of pit exit for the first lap or two, but now we are getting into a rhythm and starting to push on. Next up is Lando Norris. If we can beat Lando, that is objective complete for the day, and we'll outscore McLaren. So here we go then. We'll make the move around the outside of the McLaren driver into the left-hander. He squeezes us all the way to the limit, but he didn't have anything left to fight with there. We've got much fresher tyres, and Lando used every bit of grip he had, but it wasn't enough, and we were able to get the job done around the outside. He was so deep on the brakes on the inside there, but we just managed to cling on, and we take the position. Here's the onboard with Norris, and I think there might have been a slight touch, hard to say, but either way, we kept the car in play and made the move pretty cleanly in the end. Here we go then, another move down the inside as we continue to make our way through the field. That's Lewis Hamilton who we've just made the move on there, so this is what I mean.
Okay, good work.
We've just overtaken Norris and Hamilton in quick succession. There's the move on Hamilton, and look how close we got to the wall there. I didn't realise it at the time, but we were millimetres from disaster at that zone of the circuit. Here's the onboard with Hamilton, which perhaps shows it even better. Watch the front left wheel and end plate on the front wing there. We got so close to the corner of the barrier there. Here it is. Probably the best angle we've got is looking at the front wing of our own car, and my goodness, that could not have been closer. But we got away with it, and we go charging now after Fernando Alonso, who's running in P4, now P5 as we make the move down the inside of Fernando Alonso. And yeah, he was looking to put pressure on Sergio Perez. So Alonso is having a brilliant race, and we'll soon be trying to apply that same pressure to the Mexican, and we'll make the move down the inside. Tidy move, and we get the job done. And that moves us up onto the podium now. So these fresh tyres at the end are really starting to pay off for us, as it's now only George Russell separating us and the position we were in before the pit stop cycle. So once again, just like in Hungary, pitting later and splitting the stints more evenly has absolutely paid off in the long run. So
I've got some information on Hamilton for you. They've got some kind of mechanical problem.
well, now Hamilton's got a mechanical drama, so that might explain his lack of pace. But the point I was going to make earlier on is that Alonso was under no threat from several faster cars behind, those including Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris. all in faster cars, and Alonso is under no threat from any of them. So, you know, the fact that we're making overtakes on, you know, these McLarens and Ferraris and Red Bulls, it's not actually that surprising as we make the move now around the outside of George Russell, and we get the job done there.
Nice move. Keep going.
Because we're not the only ones taking the fight to these top teams in midfield cars, with Alonso doing the same today. So it's really cool to see that. But anyway, Hamilton now struggling in this race. Norris has been able to get through, and so does Max Verstappen, and I think Hamilton will soon be dropping behind Leclerc as well.
Okay, you sat in P2. Sainz ahead, and gap to the car in front is 11.2 seconds. They're on old mediums. Okay, Russell's behind you now. Less than a second separates you. They're on old mediums. Look after these tyres now. We want to finish the race on this compound. And that's 8 laps to go.
8 to go in this race, 7.5 really, and there's no way we can haul in the margin to Sainz. You know, I can dream, but the reality is that, you know, the tyre advantage we have is fading, and yeah, there's no way we can gain. You know, realistically, we'd need to be almost a second and a half a lap faster to gain on Sainz, and we're just not going to have that advantage, no matter how much newer our tyres are. You know, we can be fast, but there's a limit. So I think we'll just conserve what we have, and yeah, I think be very, very happy with what we've been able to achieve today. Fastest lap of the race, though.
So your teammate behind is 53.8 seconds.
Certainly is not going to hurt. As we continue on, we do catch up to someone. It is not, unfortunately, Carlos Sainz. It's Latifi going a lap down. Something we've seen quite a lot lately. He's really had a tough run of form, unfortunately, as Nicholas Latifi. It's not all been his fault. Bit of bad luck in there too. But anyways, we continue on. We come around and start the final lap of the race. And yeah, we've pretty much just been cruising at this stage. And as we now navigate the final sector, Ferrari are getting ready to celebrate, because the Spaniard has dominated the latter stages of this race, and it's going to be 2 wins in a row for Carlos Sainz. A beautiful drive here as we go for a spin at the final corner. We'll recover. We won't drop any places. We had a big margin to George Russell behind. We'll stumble to the line.
Well, mate, I can't complain about that one. That was an excellent drive.
And we'll hold on to P2. A spectacular way for us to take another podium this season. Max Verstappen gets the driver of the day. Quite the recovery from the Red Bull driver.
Well, what a drive that was to take the win for Ferrari today. Natalie Pinkham, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I'd say it was down once again to good, consistent driving, nailing the corners, working to the track conditions, and perfecting the team strategies. They got all those things right today, and the results speak for themselves.
Ferrari are at it again. An excellent performance at today's Grand Prix, and they're certainly a team that know what they're doing out there.
So, Carlos Sainz takes yet another victory this season. It's second place for ourselves and P3 for George Russell.
So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. This result then narrows the gap between our championship leader and the rest of the standings. So then, Natalie Pinkham, who would you rank as your driver of the day?
Often, my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an especially impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.
It's time to see how things are shaping up in the Constructors' Championship. It was a tough race for our championship leaders, who lose ground at the top of the table. Meanwhile, good work from Aston Martin this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action, and I can't wait to see what's next.
Alright, and then so as always, we will have a little run through the finishing order of the race. Obviously it was Sainz, myself and Russell the top 3, Sergio Perez P4, Alonso P5, so great result for Alpine, Lando Norris P6, P7 for Verstappen, a good recovery all things considered, 8th for Charles Leclerc, 9th for Lewis Hamilton, who was very much struggling at the end of that race, I think it's fair to say, but P10 for Sebastian Vettel, the German driver in his final season of Formula 1, finally gets a point on the board after Lance Stroll scored what was Aston Martin's only points back in Azerbaijan. Great for Sebastian Vettel to finally make his contribution to what has been a very difficult season for Aston Martin. In terms of the Drivers' Championship, we are now up into the top 5 ahead of Charles Leclerc, though we are tied on points. Ahead on countback, Carlos Sainz moves up into second in the championship standings, though he's the form driver at the moment and is 94 points adrift from Max Verstappen, so yeah, not really a championship fight going on at the top end of town, but very close behind that with just 2 points separating Sainz and Perez. In terms of the team's championship, Red Bull absolutely dominating, still 148 points ahead of Ferrari, and Mercedes 219 points behind Red Bull, so yeah, no real fight among the top 3, but just 12 points between ourselves and McLaren, so absolutely the fight is absolutely still on there between us, but we've given ourselves the upper hand in this race, so that could help us out throughout the rest of the season. Alpine, a little way off still, 183 points for us, 171 for McLaren, 127 for Alpine, but Alonso showed some good pace today, so there's still a little bit of hope, but they're going to need some luck to get back into the fight. But beyond the fights around the top 5 to 6, Sauber kind of on their own in 7th, but 8th, 9th and 10th, Aston Martin on 2 points, Haas on 1 point, and Williams still yet to score. And that is exactly why Sebastian Vettel's point today was so important. That moves them ahead of Haas in the team's championship. So, huge day for Aston Martin today. Anyway, as we look at the rivalry with Max Verstappen, things gone pretty well so far, as he had a bit of a tough day today. So, yeah, that certainly stepped out things in our favour early on in that one. It'd be interesting to see how that continues to play out. But anyway, let's head back to HQ and finish things off. So we get the energy store improved materials upgrade successfully on the car, so some good news there.
Our new parts have completed without issue. They'll be on the car ready for the next race weekend.
I just said that. Anyway, despite having a fairly healthy amount of resource points, there's not really a lot we can do with them at the moment, so yeah, I think that is pretty much going to be it for this one. So as always, I will say thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really do appreciate it. Please feel free to give me some feedback in the comments. It is always very helpful, and other than that, we'll see you in the next one, and goodbye.